Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. This is Fiona Wall from the Fidelis Leadership Institute, coming to you from Smart 24 TV. We are here yet for another Fat Talk, Faithful, Available, Teachable, where we promote thought leadership on the issue of ethical leadership. And what we do here every Thursday, 4 p.m. East African time, is discuss pertinent issues affecting leadership and trying to promote ethics, because we believe that ethics is the one thing that's lacking from our leadership that would probably catapult us into our development goals as a continent. Today we have a very important topic, which is the power of storytelling, preserving Africa's institutional memory. How do we do that? How do we make sure that we learn from the past, that we raise leaders who are faithful to their calling, that we raise leaders who are available to those that need them, but also raise leaders who are teachable, who learn from the past? And with me, we have the king of storytelling. He has been collecting wonderful stories all his life, for as long as I can remember. He has interviewed presidents, heads of states, all sorts of people, and he is himself a very eminent citizen of the Republic of Uganda. With me is my brother and mentor in the PR world, Mr. Simon Peter Kasiate. He is a seasoned public relations practitioner, corporate communications and sustainability strategist, who is currently the Deputy Director, Public and Corporate Affairs at Kampala City Authority. He has held this, I think, for over a year. Congratulations. After his appointment, before his appointment, he was working with MasterCard Foundation as lead program communication for the Uganda office. And just before that, he was in the energy sector. We saw him in Eskom Uganda Limited and then UEGCL, the generation company, as manager corporate affairs. Uganda Electricity Generation Company is the agency that supervises Eskom's coming into Uganda and getting the concession. And Simon was at the helm of this via the communication aspect. He has worked in the diplomatic service as press and information officer at the European Union delegation in Uganda, in Kampala, and he boasts of experience in communications and PR of about how many years, Simon?
23.
23 years, wow. With such an illustrious career in multimedia journalism spanning over 23 years, he previously worked for top private media in the country in various cities and capacities, with major local and international awards that he's won in his belt. And the most prestigious so far of these has been his, what is that award?
The
CNN Africa journalist. I think I remember you getting that.
Yeah.
You are gold, Simon, when it comes to this. He holds a bachelor's degree in social sciences and one in arts in international relationship, a master's in arts in international relations and diplomacy from Makerere University, and a master's in business administration from Makerere University Business School. He is a moderator for high-end discourses, discussions, syndicated multimedia interviews, and one-on-ones. He has interviewed great people. I think the only person maybe I haven't interviewed is the Pope. But Simon, you are very welcome.
Thank you, Fiona, for that illustrious introduction.
Yes.
It's very humbling.
Yes.
Sometimes for a moment you may think you meant being the one described.
I know, and we've only just read a very brief, a brief excerpt from your bio. So Simon, you're welcome. This is the Fat Talk. We call them Fat Talks for Africa. And the logo of the Fat Talks has a fireplace, which means we are in an African center telling stories that are supposed to transform people. And you have been at the heart of storytelling, at least digitally, for Ugandans for many, many years, for 23 years. And one of the things we do at the Fidelis Institute is we're trying to promote ethical leadership. We're trying to create a critical mass of ethical leaders. So Fat Talks being one of those products, we have partners like Smart 24 TV who've said we are going to project this and give it a platform.
Good.
So Simon, this multimedia mogul that you are, how about we start with who is Simon? I mean, you've asked this question to so many people, and we've all been dying to know, who is Simon Kasiate? Tell us a little bit about where you came from.
There's no rocket science as to who I am.
Yeah.
I think what's more pronounced is what I am.
Yeah.
Which is the things I do every day for the jobs I hold and the vocation I chose to take, which is journalism.
Yeah.
But for who I am,
yeah.
I think it's an inner question of character, and many a times the roles you play may not so much portray different character from what you are intrinsically. Although my experience has been that I am slightly different from what I am in terms of who I am.
Wow.
The me that I know is quite,
coming out.
Yeah, quite reflective, and to a great extent you won't believe it, introverted.
I think I would believe it.
I am quiet and reclined in my own space.
Yeah.
I prefer a certain high degree of privacy around myself, and for the most part I suffer a number of vulnerabilities that may not necessarily pop out when I do my day-to-day work.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd say I'm passionate about my work, but I think it reflects on the individual that I am, being a very emotional person.
Yes.
And so I take a lot of things to the emotion for which they hold, but I may smoke screen that if I am cast in the court of public opinion, because maybe I may be in some spaces where I don't really have to show an emotion, but I have to share information as it is. So at an individual level, really, I'm just an ordinary guy next door. I keep loving to tell people that I am fun outside, serious inside. I borrowed that tagline from an old Nokia advert, which said, fun outside, but serious inside. Now, many times when you are fun outside, many people think you are funny on the inside and quite jocular, but far from it. I am quite a bit serious inside, the detail and gravity of which you only get to know when you associate with me up close and maybe in quarters that others publicly may not.
Well, that's interesting. So what would introvert, somebody who's an introvert in his peaceful time, in his me time, be doing in an industry like this one? What inspired you? What got you there?
I think I was just thrust into the industry of journalism by a stroke of luck.
Oh.
I didn't, you just read my profile, I didn't go out of my way to study journalism or mass communication. Matter of fact, growing up as a young person, you know how it is, where on Monday you wake up a doctor, Tuesday you wake up an engineer, Thursday you wake up an architect, fourth day you want to just be a football player. I went through those motions as a young person, but of course it was clear without a doubt of contradiction that I needed to be somebody very serious according to the prescription of my parents and the age around that time.
Absolutely, yes.
A serious person was a lawyer, doctor, an engineer, not a musician, a fashion designer, all these other vocations that are trendy today. And so, considering, again, at the risk of sounding vain, that I was a very A-class student, I remember scoring not less than aggregate 4 in my PLE. In fact, I was one of the top in the country.
Nice.
So it was very clear that I would go on to do complicated stuff. And I went for it because in my HSC I studied to be a medical doctor. That's what my mother thought I would be very good at. I also felt I needed to treat her to a good realization that I am able to follow her dream and be the doctor that she never became. So I studied physics, chemistry, biology and mathematics in high school. I ready to be a doctor, and I think specifically I wanted to be a gynecologist and an obstetrician.
A gynecologist. That's interesting.
Long story short, I missed human medicine by a point.
1 point.
But by the time the results
came... But that's
came,
on government.
On government. But also knowing that I had grown up I lived in urban poverty, you would call it, because we were often pretty young. My dad passed on when I was 13, and my siblings were, the last one hadn't even gone to school. My mother was a housewife. So life for us became black out of being white. Just overnight. On the 15th of October 1993, that was it for us. So my mother could not afford a decent education for all of us. But I, having been lucky to have passed my examinations very well, because my father died 2 weeks to my PLE, but nonetheless I aced the examinations. And by a stroke of good luck, a good friend of his meets my mother 2 days before I go into a seminary to go and study to be a priest, because that's what the church where I went to
wanted.
Not wanted, that's what they could afford for me as a poor young guy that had been in their school, had passed very well the examinations, but I was from a destitute home that was unable to earn me a decent education. So the church, and I had been an altar boy for many years. For me, being a priest wasn't a bad thing. Priests were, to me, as a young 13-year-old, they have a car, they live wonderful lives. Father Fulvio, who was a very good friend of mine, an Italian priest, always had candy and scotch right there in his
motivation for
exactly. So as
choice.
altar boys, he always gave us sweets. So I thought if I became a priest, I would have
a good life.
Exactly. So 2 days before I could report to Kisubi Seminary, my mother meets by chance an old friend of my father who asks about my father because he had been away and he hadn't known about his demise. And he was shocked to learn that he had died. Then he asked about me because he remembers me as a young, quite very helpful young lad. And my mother told him about me and what I was going up to, and he said he's going to seminary.
I know.
Can be priest? He can't. Which school did he put his first choice? My mother mentioned it and he said no. Ask him to come and see me tomorrow after work. So I went to see him. It was a Friday after work. I thought he was just going to give me pocket money and off the seminary I would report on Saturday. We went had a conversation with him. He asked me about my dreams and aspirations and asked me whether I really wanted to be a priest. And I told him to his face, yes. Throw me at anything. I think I was determined to be a priest.
Wow.
I mean, it felt like, it felt like,
about 13, right?
what did I know? I mean, if I knew then what I know now, possibly I wouldn't have made that choice. But at 13, I was fairly innocent to subject myself to total chastity.
Everyone now is picturing you in a robe right now.
Exactly. I
you
mean,
know that.
Total chastity and celibacy for life.
Your children should shudder at that thought.
Exactly. I mean, this man saved them.
I know.
The whole thing. Or possibly caused them the kind of anguish they have for having me for their father. So the man said, no.
Yes.
For as long as I'm alive, I'll pay your fees.
Oh my God.
Here is 100,000 shillings. Go tell your mother. Monday, go to Ntare school, pick your call. I'll pay your fees, Simon.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. I said, Then I walked down to his car. He had a mattress. He had a few things he had bought for me and said, here. So because I had 100,000 shillings on me, I could have chosen to take a taxi ride from Bugolobi to Chitintare where we lived. But because of excitement and having these things sink in, I decided to walk that journey. I walked with my mattress on the head through the valley of Bugolobi, the sugar canes, jumping over swamps to get into our little two-roomed shack that we lived in Chitintare. Epitome of urban poverty, really. And that's how my journey to the education that I have started.
Wow.
So I started off. Now, flipping again, now I took you back to PS1, but you know, by the time I was done with Form 6, I finished school on a Wednesday. I got a job and started working on Monday. Because
you were excellent.
Some friends of my mother thought I was extremely brilliant, and so they needed me to coach their children who were on holiday. So one of them had children who are in St. Andrew's Turi. I'd never heard about that school, just so you know. So to teach them mathematics.
So boy was now coaching the St. Andrew's Tour.
I'd left Ntare 2 years earlier because from Ntare school I went to St. Mary's College, Kisubi. That's where I did my physics, chemistry, biology.
Now you're going up.
I was excellent academically until recently. So I was coaching these young kids mathematics, English, and geography and all. So the jobs...
Were you coaching them from here or from Kenya?
No, from here. Okay. They have an office in this town. They have a building. They arranged me an office space, put a whiteboard, put a chair, put a coat hanger. You are an official tutor. Look, I had an office at 19 that I don't know many adults to have in this town on Bombo Road. And God bless that family because they taught me the work ethic. I mean, I would drop in there 8 a.m. in the morning, take a lunch hour break, come back for the afternoon shift and then leave. And they paid me handsomely. They paid me 50,000 shillings every Friday. Net of transport and lunch. It was a lot of money. And Friday was half day.
That's like over 20 years ago.
Exactly. That was 1999 December. So Fridays were half days because the children also needed to have some time to go swim and attend to other clubs with their parents. And then on one of those Fridays...
And that was a payday.
Exactly. And so on one of those Friday afternoons, I had watched Teens Club, a program by young people on one of the TV stations
I remember it.
which was DSTV. And I felt I could do a more decent job than these guys presenting. So I had asked about them and which schools they went to, and they told me Aga Khan, and I said, Aga Khan, I'm from St. Mary's College, so I think I have a better command of English, never mind I have an accent. So I walked myself to that TV station one Friday afternoon, dressed formally without a bow tie.
Yeah.
And that's to see the producer of the program. They showed her to me, and I told her, I'm interested in being a part of the crew. She just looked at me. I was wearing a typical smart grey trouser, like a white shirt, tucked in like a tetracycline
Looking like
capsule.
a head boy.
So generally, I was, I know my hair, I think, pulled backwards. I used to have a full head of hair.
Oh my God, were you using those little tiny pullers?
Exactly. And she said, no, you're too formal for this.
You're too uptight.
So I didn't quite make the cut.
Oh dear, you walked into the studio as an academic, I think.
Well, I couldn't put it anyway. I spoke really like a mature person, I want to believe. The next Friday I showed up.
Again?
Yep. This time I was ready to show her that I can be what you want me to be.
Oh dear, what did you have on?
I even had a stud. I had an ear pin, like, magnetically
Talk about
placed.
branding, appropriate branding.
I had stressed jeans, was like I just fought a leopard, so they are ripped up. I had these t-shirts, I don't remember what words were on them, and I came with a bounce to my step.
And you said,
I was talking with my fingers, this, and I said, yo, my name is Simon, and so on.
I'm sorry.
She was not in. So the lady had come to impress.
Was not there. In.
So I'm told she's gone for a maternity break.
Oh, wow. All that work.
All that work.
Did you actually prick your ear?
No, I had a magnetic stand.
Yeah, it's a magnetic one.
But her deputy was around, who asked me, so you, what school are you from? I said, SMART. She said, SMART.
And you look like this.
Now, there are times it was a crime looking like how I look like. Now even this was what she was saying, SMART.
There's no winning.
No, this can't be SMART. But she knew someone in SMART, who strangely was our deputy headmaster. And this happens to be the sister.
God.
I didn't arrange that,
destiny.
but technical know-how.
God.
So she picks the phone and calls him.
And says, brother, do you know someone like this?
Brother Victor Kagoro said that, a little guy here is claiming to be from SMART. He's called Simon Kasiati. And the moment she mentioned my name, I don't know what this guy started telling her, but I could hear say, in their local language, Esebo.
Like instantly.
And then she just walked off and kept glancing at me as she talked on the phone. I knew this guy was telling her something about me.
Yeah.
But I was okay because I had a sterling record in SMART, both academically and in discipline, at least before the administration. What I did in the cover of darkness,
no one knew.
Well, those who know.
It remained there.
But it's certainly, because I lived a normal life like any other teenager. I escaped from school to go and have a good drink.
Now they know.
Now they know, but I hope my children don't, but when they do, they have the liberty.
Father Kagoro is not online.
Well, if he does, it would be nice to catch up with him. I haven't seen him in 24 years, so it would be nice to catch up with him.
Yeah.
So she came back and says, we have a screen test at 3 p.m. This was about 1 o'clock. Maybe come back for the screen test. I said, go. She said, yes. No, I will stay. I will wait for it. So I waited for the screen test. And I did the screen test. And she told me, we'll get back to you, but most likely it will be on the 5th of January. Because this was in December. Fiona, I won't believe it, but I stopped teaching my kids on the 4th of January. And on the 5th of January,
you had a job.
I reported. So since then, I've been lucky to have a job to date. There's not been a single time in that time where I've not had a job.
That's amazing.
So that's how I'm thrust.
Since you were 19.
Yes, that's how I'm thrust into presentation on TV. And then I grew organically. One day, 3 months into the role, around about, a sports news anchor goes AWOL, disappears out of the country. Another guy who was his deputy, I think the owner of the TV station, fired them unceremoniously in an afternoon, and there was no one to do sports news in the evening.
And
so
you're like,
I happened to be in the corridors moving around because I was very available. This was my vacation. And
Available.
Yes.
Put a stick there. Available. Members, present. I hope you're hearing this.
I happened to be around because, Teens Club was only
This is a fat talk. Available is the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teens Club was always on Saturdays. So my other crewmates came in on Saturdays. Me, I came every day. because I need to be available for any assignment that could be given to me.
Excellent.
That's
an excellent inspiration to
so
any 19-year-olds out there.
That's how I met Yusuf Kalyango Jr. in the corridor and said, I've seen you do Teens Club News. Can you try mainstream news? I said, please, there's nothing I can't do.
Mainstream.
I said, yes, I will do. He said, yes, sports. Okay. Before I knew it, I was on the set that night at 9:30. And just when I started to read the sports news, I could see there was pandemonium in the gallery. I could see people moving up and down, phone calls were going through. I didn't mind, I did my 5 minutes, walked out. As soon as I got out, I found Yusuf waiting for me at the door.
Yeah.
Chairman is leaving. Chairman was the one of the... I said, what's his problem? Did I misspell a word? Did I mispronounce something? He said, no. He says you cannot have been on Teens Club on Saturday. And today, Wednesday, people are seeing you read prime time news. And he would take this station serious. No. He had made the first said, you cannot get this young man who, by the way, he made the comment. Meaning one of his students said, this guy has read the news very well. He's a new guy, but I think he has read the news very well. So I had created an impression. So he said, he has done an excellent job, but can you take him off both programs for some time? People forget him, and maybe he grows up and changes rebrand him. I used not to wear my specs on TV because they had big frames. I would look geeky. It wasn't cool to be on Teens Club and you're wearing specs. Now I realize I need to wear my specs
to look a little
appear
older.
mature.
Yeah.
I'm not gifted with facial hairs. That what you're seeing now is all I've managed to gather in almost 50 years.
So have you been putting fertilizer and stuff?
I tried all that and failed as a young person, so I have resigned
Even
to this.
COVID didn't help?
Nothing.
Okay.
As in, you can see, rather than grow hair, I lose hair. So for 3 months, I was off the set. I think for a month.
Training?
Now that's what I'm coming to. I used that time to learn to do everything. There's nothing I cannot do in a TV station. From operating that camera, from editing, using the sound, writing scripts, producing, and
again available.
Exactly. So I learned how to do
resilient.
Everything.
I need to sort of frame the things that you're pointing out, just in case our listeners and viewers are missing it. 1, you were available. 2, you were determined to do any kind of job and learn all the skills you could.
Exactly.
Because you had time.
Not just time. I had a huge driving force behind me. I told you.
What was the driving force?
I told you I was a young orphaned boy. I was the firstborn in the family of 5.
You needed to make it for your family.
I needed to make it because I did not want my children, and I still do not want my children to even face a half of the challenges we've had to face.
Yes.
For the most part, Fiona, people will see a finished product called Simon Kasiate, and the temptation to think that he has always had it on a silver platter. And is very much there, and I meet that all the time. It doesn't even make it better that I am from a certain part of the country that everyone associates with getting things on a silver platter.
Yeah, the ones that are eating right now.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so everyone thinks, oh, he's the one that gets always the nice jobs. So they're always fascinated by the doors they say have opened before me.
Yeah.
But many forget that, in fact, Fiona, many more doors have shut in my face than have opened before my face. Many more. I have done jobs. I do them for lack of a better alternative. But I do them like that was the best thing that can ever happen to me. Let me repeat that.
So whatever job you do.
Exactly. I've done jobs for which, honestly, I wouldn't have done. I just do them because I must do that job.
But when you do that...
When I do it, I do it like it's the best thing that ever happened.
So excellence has become a habit.
Because I don't work for my current employer. I keep telling people, I work for my next.
Have you heard that, people?
Yes, because
work for your next employer?
While at this current employer.
Yeah.
Because I do what I do where I am.
Work for your next opportunity.
For someone to say, I want this guy to come and do that stuff he's doing there.
Which is what keeps happening, right?
Well,
you've worked in every big brand that we can think of.
And I'm telling you, there are bigger brands for which the doors have been closed before my face. And that's what you see. People forget that for some, they haven't found me worth.
So you can never really arrive. It's good to keep going.
You have to clamor.
Keep training.
Some may call it greed, some may call it grit, but whatever you want to call it, whether it's greed or grit, for me, it is to know that there is always room at the top.
I think it's purpose and grit.
There is always room at the top.
Your why is very, very clear. And I think that's important. Having a clear why, having the competence, because you did your time, you did your practice, you did your you're skilling. I mean, you have like 2 masters and all these things. So
because I know,
and then actually the humility to take on whatever opportunity comes and do it to your best.
Absolutely, and I take it with such a verve that you wouldn't even use the word humility to describe how I jump on some jobs. That's why you'll find the character shows up on Twitter, like one who showed up this afternoon. Kasiate has answered arrogantly taxi operators and bus operators because he has picked a phrase
that you said
quoted out of a whole thing.
Yeah.
And you want to tell the guy, it's not arrogance, young man, it's candor. Candor means telling you as it is.
Yes.
Take it or leave it. When I say, if you think it doesn't make business sense to operate in Kampala, then operate elsewhere. But for as long as it makes business sense for you to operate in Kampala, then you must work within.
Meet the price.
Meet what Kampala says.
Feed the piper.
Absolutely. So anyway, back to our conversation. I don't want to be derailed by these naysayers.
I know you're going to pay for this kalongo.
No, it's not even a kalongo. I need an opportunity to abuse that character, and
you're not going to do it on
I'm
fat.
not going to do it on fat. So I just need to sanitize.
On fat, we are going to forgive the character.
I still have it. I shared with him my number. I need us to have a phone conversation because I quarrel better when I speak than when I type. So I still have that too.
So
anyway, going back to,
is that from, again, I think now I want to go to your public speaking. It was not, were you, because you are an introvert, but you probably, so where do all the words come from? Were you reading? I'm looking at the pool that all these words come from, because you're quite the wordsmith. You have a lot of stories under your belt. So is that, what were those other habits that you crafted or you took on that have made you who you are when it comes to things like how you speak and what you say?
When I said I'm introverted, I didn't quite mean that I'm quiet.
Yeah, I understand that.
So for as long as I can remember, I have always been the attention thing in a room. From as far back as I can remember. I'm a firstborn, so to my mother and father when they lived together.
Your story is very familiar.
Now, I have been the center of their attention.
Since you were a child.
I want to believe that I was my father's pride as being the firstborn son. You know how the African traditional setting is. My mother grew so fond of me. There's an everlasting and unending debate at home on who was mommy's favorite child. And everyone claims
it is you.
It is them.
Oh, it is them. Okay.
And how she managed to
convince all of you that you are
because
each
there is
best.
no part of a chicken I never ate from my mother's pot. But the chicken has 2 thighs and we are 5 children. A chicken has 1 neck, we are 5 children. A chicken has 1 gizzard and we are 5 children. A chicken has 2 wings and we are 5 children. A chicken has 1 back and we are 5 children, including her, and dependents. But I know that she has served me a piece of chicken from either part of its body. But my siblings said the same. So how she was able to balance it up, that balancing act, I don't think I have found it.
That's amazing.
The way I treat my children, if there is a discerning eye, they can tell there's a favorite.
Yeah.
But how for her she was unable, each one of us have...
She left you with that clear sense, each of you, that you are her favorite. Important.
But for me, instead of showing me the way she showed others love, she was exceptionally hard on me.
Of course, but that's expected.
And I learned it early, that this hardness is love towards me.
Yes.
So at note, I only remember I harbored such thoughts because one day she told me off. She said, "Excuse me, Simon, you think you are quite something because you now have face and name recognition and people know you, they know Kasiate is on TV and all that. Now, let me put it to you. You're not going to be able to afford me a shoe that your father never afforded me. You cannot afford a dress that your father never afforded me. You can never show me love that my husband, your father, never showed me. So if you think that what you're doing is to please me, hell no. It is for you and those that will come into your life after me. So don't think you're doing me a favor here. Nobody does me a favor. The one who could have done...
You must have given us some teenage attitude.
Here is what she was saying. He who did me a favor long died, and he died many years ago. Am I dead? So you think for you're going to treat me now, and you think if you die...
Yes.
Hey.
That's an African mother. Did that come with a slipper? That's an African mom for you. I'm sure so many people that are listening identify.
Those words nobody
They're probably
came.
flinching with...
Those words nobody came when you are...
But you already...
The slipper has already done its part. And
Oh, wow.
This was.
We remember her.
This is
very
way
fondly.
past my teenage age, just so you know.
That's
beating
fantastic.
came in my 20s.
In your 20s?
Yes.
Hats off.
Well, she died. She died when I was 24.
Condone,
so.
What is it called? Physical abuse of any kind.
No, if she had spared the road,
we
I wouldn't.
glorify the Lord for her and
if
for her
she
effort.
had spared the road, I wouldn't be worth your time
So
in this program
she
this
didn't
morning.
spare the road, but
So going
she
back,
didn't spare the love.
I think the road was the love language to
Yeah.
her. Anyway, so
No, the chicken pieces.
yeah, so I have always been a bit of a center of attraction.
Yeah.
So you go to class, and then in class it never made things worse. It made them better that I performed well in class.
Yeah.
So I never took a position beyond the second
Yeah.
at any one time.
Oh, wow.
So again, you draw attention to that. But then you had this weird character. Outside, you are fun. You are everything. You are a head prefect in school.
So where did you, again, I'm looking at the source. Where, when you are talking, when you're the center of attraction and you're speaking from a source. When you are leading and you're speaking from a source. When you are being a head boy or doing all these other things, you are coming from a source. When did you get time to invest in that knowledge base?
In knowledge and reading and all that. Because I was always doing things I love and I'm in places, I learn and pick things. You can be very sure from this program, I want to believe if you're not careful, I will leave when I have learned much more than I would have taught the multitudes that are listening to you and I. Because I always make the opportunity for me to suck in from my environment, from my opportunities, much more than I think I actually give. So many a times I was curious, I asked questions, I read anything that came my way. I watched things I should never watch, except football. I don't watch football because I can't stand 90 minutes of stress, and because I'm emotional, I invest in so much. So
it's too stressful to watch a ball going around.
Absolutely. I don't know how people who support teams like Arsenal really survive, because they come so close to winning but never win for a long time.
You have to go very, very slow because we might lose half of our listenership right now.
So it's that kind of, so I listened to many things. I sucked in so much. I read. You won't believe it. I've read the Bible back to back 3 times. And I say, the first time I was 10, I saw my son reading the Bible and I told him I hope
you and I are very, you've heard my story,
yes.
10 years old, Bible.
Exactly, I read cover to cover, so I knew the books. And so, and then the major driving force for me to always be on top of my game in terms of information and being able to communicate effectively was the fear to disappoint.
The fear to fail.
The fear to fail. Because Fiona, I found myself always in a situation where someone somewhere is banking on me. I have my young brother Ivan, he's twice my size. He's bigger than me. But he had, from as far back as I can remember, had such an emotional and physical dependence on me.
You were his father probably, because your father died pretty young.
Even when our dad was alive, but we were so close that he relied on me for so much. Yet I found him so clingy. So it was always to prove to my brother Ivan, my sisters Florence and Monica, and my other brother Emmanuel, to show them the way, never to let them down. So much so that it even affected how I mourned my parents when they passed on.
You didn't have time.
I remember having to tell myself the moment I showed up at home after our mother had passed on, and told myself, Simon, you're not going to cry before your siblings, because when you cry, what's going to happen to them? They'll break down. So for weeks on end, I bubbled that up, and then when I came to burst out, I almost sank myself into habit. Why? Because I was not trying to show my siblings that things are tight.
So let's go to that. How does the pressure of having to succeed, how do you handle that? The pressure of not being able to show your grief, the pressure of not being able to turn it off, this constant, consistent demand for excellence. Because we call it the road less traveled, this path of working hard and actually earning what you have, not the shady path. And it's the road less traveled because it is hard. Sometimes you never switch off. So, but at the same time, you need your mental health, you need your peace of mind, you need to be healthy for those that that love you, and even for yourself, so that that resentment doesn't grow. How do you energize? How do you And what I'm saying is a lot of people listening today are leaders. This is a leadership conversation, and I'm sure many of them are going through same things. I'm a firstborn. I understand that issue, that challenge to always be on
top
point.
of your game.
And yet you're human, right? You want off days. Sometimes off days just happen to you, whether you want them or not. How do you deal with that?
I think it comes also down to my character. I'm quite a hoarder. And I've known myself to subsist long-lasting relations.
Yeah.
I don't have someone you'd call a best friend in the real sense of the word. But those who are my friends know that I sustain relations for a very long time.
For life.
Including romantic relationships that I had before I got really married. They would take quite a long time.
Yeah.
Because I'm a hoarder. I still have my SMARC uniform. And I hold on to high school letters that I received from...
Interesting.
Now, some of these are distinguished women and married women in this town.
Oh my
But I have
goodness.
a moment when I go back and refer to the letters they were writing.
Well, we're really glad you're ethical, because
Yes,
I
I
think
am.
you would probably make a killing from the blackmail.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
so I have used one barber for the longest time that I can remember. One barber. What does that reflect on me is that I must be consistently giving the value for those that know me for that value.
Yes, consistent.
Consistently.
Yeah.
I mean, when I read news on TV, it didn't matter what day I would have. Fiona, there would be a day you are coming from a heartbreak. But you must appear on TV and smile and read and present. Every single day I keep telling folks I work with, there's 1,001 reasons as to why I cannot wake up to be in the office at the time when I'm expected. There's 1,001 reasons as to why. But those notwithstanding, I must show up, be present, and deliver.
Yeah.
The same way I expect the same from others. Just like I go to one restaurant more or less, really. Even the bar, I know that on Monday I go to this bar, on Tuesday,
So you are a creature of habit.
A creature of habit, but
OCD as well, right?
yeah, exactly. So I want to give the same, that someone knows Simon for this.
So how
it
do you
hurts
maintain
me.
it?
Yeah, sometimes I'm in a bad mood and a guy comes who saw me smiling, and I'm struggling not to show them that I am not in faculty to be the same old guy.
Yeah.
I feel when I disappoint you, I feel greatly affected. So
does that compromise your ability to be authentic sometimes?
I wouldn't call it that. I'm only saying I don't put up an act per se, but I have to say this is what I am created to live like. I mean, does it surprise you that Robin Williams, who made the whole world laugh, died of depression?
I know, no, it doesn't.
Exactly. We deal with so much. And so much is thrown at you, but there is what is expected of you. It doesn't matter what's at the back end. I keep telling people who are unable to honor a time appointment. I say, come at 2 p.m. and you want to call me at 2 p.m. to ask me where we should meet. And I tell them, is there a time when you have switched on to a TV station, Smart 24 for example, whose news is at 9 p.m.? Has there been a time in its life where they say, the anchor, Fiona Wall, who should have presented the news at 9, is unable to make it for these reasons.
Yeah.
So we will have the news at 9:15. No. 9 on the dot. We are there, come rain, shine, thunderbolt, whatever it is. So the ability to live your life in that lane. And of course it causes a number of contradictions, including destabilizing your family. Because again, the family is demanding for attention, for time. Your spouse wants to have more time with you, but you are people of the people.
Yes.
And so there's that contradiction.
You have many constituents.
Everyone is happy because you are there for them. But we, who will make the last decision on what ICU to put you in, or what coffin to put you in, or what dress you up in, we don't have the time. So it's that difficult contradiction that sometimes you've got to face. But that's...
So do you have any coping tips for anybody out there who's suffering the same malaise?
Well, I don't want to assume that what works for me will work for others. There's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
What I have told myself repeatedly is that in this journey of life, I am neither taking shortcuts nor am I engaging the reverse gear.
Shortcuts.
That when I engage through, even when I make a mistake, I go through the mistake to learn from it and not commit it again. I don't back out of it.
You know, I always refer people I'm going to do this to you now, Mr. Bible scholar. Isaiah 43, God says, I will, when you go through the water, when you go through the fire. He doesn't say, when you
get into the fire and come
water.
out.
No, he doesn't say when you come across water or when you see fire. No. He says when you go through, meaning that through has to happen. Absolutely. And then he says, I will not let the fire consume you. I will not let the water overtake you. He is not promising to take you out.
But you must get yourself out of there.
To go with you through it and to make sure that it does not get the best of you. And I think that that's a very powerful inspiration for resilience.
Wow. I am glad that without even making reference to the Bible, I have been able to live
well,
by that.
You did read it 3 times.
I can't say I can place really
the same Bible
a
says
number.
If you teach a child the right way, he'll walk in it. It's like default setting. It's like, I think when you're reading the Bible, it's already
exactly
in your
picks
mind.
it up. Exactly, yeah.
So the other thing that I would like us to talk about is Africa. You've listened, and why I'm saying Africa is because I find that the situation we have here is similar to what's in South Africa. Right now, by the way, they have load shedding every 12 hours. What's similar in Sudan or Egypt?
Then that's not similar with us. We don't have load shedding for 12 hours, do we?
So no, what I'm saying is the structural issues, the corruption on the continent. Uganda loses 18 trillion annually to this. And we're looking at a continent that has all the resources that could power the world when it comes to energy resources, when it comes to minerals and precious stones, when it comes to
even human resource.
Human resource. So with all this prosperity, why are we so poor? Why, with all this powerful manpower, I mean, we have the youngest population in Earth, why are we still where we are?
I always prefer to relate that to my own circumstance. Fiona, if that gentleman, God rest his soul in eternal peace, had not passed on when he did and left a beautiful young family, my mother was 33, housewife without much of an education because she had been sucked out of school to get married to my dad. My dad had been of a civil servant with humble means, and he passes on pretty much early in his time. He died at 39.
Yeah.
If that hadn't happened, and the guy was still alive now, pampering me as he used to, I wouldn't have amounted to anything close to what you see today.
Yes.
You asked me earlier, what's the drive that keeps you going? The fear to slip back into urban poverty. You see, I've seen my poor cousins coming from the village and all that.
Africa.
Now I'm going to relate to that. I've seen my poor cousins from the village. Their poverty is not what urban poverty means. Because in the village you can climb up a mango tree and pick up a scavenger and eat.
There's no proper ones.
But here, when you are poor, and I have lived through that.
When you have no food, you have no.
You know what it means to live in a mud and water house in Kampala without electricity and using a pit latrine? I have lived that life. Forget what you see today as a finished product, the guy moving around the boat, driving sophisticated Mercedes-Benz and things like that.
Well, I guess it's not by accident that now you're leading the city authority in communication.
So
right?
it's the fear of that, the worry. Now, in Africa, because we have a lot going for ourselves, that's residual. There's food. The weather is beautiful. I mean, I traveled and bought some nice leather jackets. It's been 7 months. I've not been able to wear them in Kampala because the weather. So you
think that naturally occurring opulence is making us...
Not opulence, the gifting by nature.
The gifting by nature.
Is what I believe is the reason why possibly we as Africans have not moved the step of nurturing or using nature in a way to make our lives easier.
We've seen some
if there was going to be
that are similar to us. For instance, Asia, South America, some states, the BRICS, apart from maybe Dubai, which is a stone, but those ones really have one. But we've seen some of these states, and in 1963, when we were getting our independence, 62, they were at the same economic level. So why, what's the difference?
I was coming to that. You see, when we as a people are comfortable in our skins...
Because I'm sure they all have the same beautiful Mediterranean weather and all
you'll be surprised not.
That we have.
Neighboring Kenya here.
Yes.
doesn't have the same weather pattern as here. If you're in Kenya in June, July,
Yeah.
in Nairobi,
No, it's true.
you are in winter literally. And if you're not really, circumstances there will eat you up.
Yeah.
And that surprised me that it's a better economy than ours, largely because of their historical, political setup, where Kenyans were disenfranchised of their land.
For a long time.
It was taken away by these huge ranchers who were alien and brought the natives to work on labor lines and treated them like slaves on their own land. A person who grows up in that kind of circumstance has more resolution to do work and change their circumstances more than I, who simply just landed in places where we landed and did the things that we did there. Now, it kind of comes down to the next stage, which is leadership.
Yeah.
If the leadership is intentional
Yeah.
about getting people from one stage to another, as we've seen transformative leaders, you talk about Asian, I always like to refer to Lee Kuan Yew. He came in with a clear vision, never took any compromise, and ensured that his citizens, the Singaporeans, do things in a straight line. He punished prohibitively anyone that was going astray.
So
here,
ethics
our
and
leader,
severe discipline.
absolutely, where
Yeah.
you enforce the law without fear or favor, ill will or affection, and it applies across board.
Across board.
Exactly.
Thank you. We are going into a break, but before a break, I want you to tell me 3 things. And the audience is going to decide which one is true. Which of these 3 things is true, which one is a lie. So just off your head.
3 things about me, about
Yes,
what?
about you.
Well, I told you I'm introverted. I'm fun outside but serious inside.
No. I don't want you to tell me 3 facts about you. I want you to give me 3 facts about you that might not be necessarily true.
That might not be necessarily true.
Yes.
Am
It's a guess game for our members to know how much they know you.
Well,
Okay, let's take the break as Simon thinks about this. The wordsmithy is, I thought you'd hit it off, but
I'm unable to tell lies about
he's
myself.
too honest, so let's first give him time to be creative. We'll be back on the Fat Talks. It's Fiona Wall with Simon Kasiate in the house talking to you about storytelling and how to help develop Africa through preserving the institutional memory of our leaders.